Hey everyone, Coach Patrick here. Welcome to a check-in chat here in April for everybody. Coming up on Easter weekend. It's me and Happy Daisy Cat here, just coming to say hi, see what's going on in the real world out there. I'm gonna head over to our chat room right now just to see if we got any folks in the house. Let's see here. All right, so I think I'll use this time. We're going to call this tonight Beer with Coach P. I got some Focal Banger. Those of you in the house who know great beer, this is supposedly one of the greatest. And I want to talk to you guys a little bit about a couple things right now. So there's a few things going on inside the house, and it's really good for you to sort of have a perspective of where everyone's at. So we've got some people who've already raced, whether Puerto Rico or Oceanside or Texas. Congratulations to you all. And some of you who are just kind of getting into this season and just building up, thinking about Blue Ridge Camp, thinking about Lake Placid, which kicks off on May 1st. Sort of lots of different things going on inside the house. And we even have the Blue Ridge Camp coming up in 2 weeks. There's this interesting intersection of early people who are racing and thinking about race planning, and then other folks who are only now just emerging from the out season and getting into shape. So we sort of have this division of the team as people think a little bit about what it means to kind of get ready for the next phase of their training. So what's really important when you think about that for everybody here listening at home, it's kind of assessing where you're at. And you sort of have two endpoints. You have where you started, and inside Neurostation, we are fanatical about capturing where you are. So you want that functional testing on where you are. And then you've got the other end of the spectrum, which is where you want to be. You kind of have this vision of yourself on race day, crossing the finish line, arms raised, super excited about the time that you see on the clock and your performance. But there's a huge delta between those 2 points, and you can't simply draw a straight line. Fitness, life, work, circumstances, nothing operates that way. So we want to have a better sense of how things operate as we go. And so when you look far, far away at what's happening, it looks like a beautiful straight line. When you zoom in on it, you all of a sudden realize that there's ups and downs, there's hiccups, there's opportunities where you're stronger, places where you need to back off. And ultimately, you need to kind of know what's the right time to do the work and what's not the right time. And so when we think about that inside Neurostation, a lot of it comes down to managing your effort appropriately. So for people who are racing right now, you guys have your head totally in the logistical side of the equation. You're trying to come up with a race plan, and you're trying to take that race plan, implement it in your training, you can go ahead and put it out in your race. So we don't want to do any type of race without preparation, and preparation begins with creating a plan for how you're going to do your race rehearsal, executing that race rehearsal, both 1 and 2, learning from both, posting to the team so you learn from the team, and then implementing that 3rd, 4th, or 5th version of that race plan on race day to be better. And the longer the race gets, the more important that race plan is. So for you guys, it's almost all mental. It's mental in terms of how do I stay engaged on the trainer over these long runs? How do I stay on top of my game when I'm so tired? But it's also mental in terms of the biggest things that are going to move the needle for your race performance now are related specifically to how you approach the race mentally. What the type of plan you have and how cerebral you can be about your day. One of the biggest differentiators about our sport is that we draw the race start to finish. We draw the distance of the race so long, it becomes far less about physical ability and more about mental toughness, preparation, and execution. And if you can be excellent in even just two of those 3 areas, you're going to have a phenomenal time on race day as well. Now, for those of you who are moving a little earlier in the season, you've got some other stuff going on inside your head. A lot of times what you're thinking is what I was just encountering today. Oh my God, how can I do these types of workouts? How could I ever do an Ironman? I'm so exhausted right now. There's just no way I could possibly do it. And that's not really kind of where we need your head to be. In your cases, we need to be more in the process management place. By process management, I mean, don't worry so much about how far you are from that end state where you want to be. Focus instead of what's that next workout? What's that next session? What's the next thing I can do to make sure that I'm moving the needle forward? If every day you can move the needle forward just a little bit, we step back and we look, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months down the line, and you've moved it a ton. But if you look every day and say, whoa, I moved it a little bit, but I have so much further to go. And I moved it a little bit, but I've got so much more to go. It'd be awful, right? If every day your kid came home from math, they were so excited about this new mathematics they learned with fractions, multiplying fractions, and you said to them, multiplying fractions is cool, I'm excited for you, but look, these are all the other things that you have to learn in math. Just you wait. They probably would quit. I would have quit. I know probably you would have quit as well. So instead of putting ourselves in a position where we're raising the mountain higher than it needs to be, instead stay focused on that daily goal. Inside Endurance Nation, we're very oriented around that next best workout. Sometimes it's a session, sometimes it's a rehearsal, sometimes it's a recovery workout, sometimes it's no workout. But you need to be more in tune with what your body needs and what needs to happen next. So for those of you in the early phases of your year, you're kind of just now getting into the outdoors. Here in Rhode Island in mid-April, we're finally getting outside, was able to put in a good ride today. Those of you a little further north still struggling, those of you further south are probably outside for a month. And so you're kind of getting what we like to call your road legs, what it means to actually run outside, not on a treadmill, what it means to ride outside, what the speed feels like, the wind, all those other distractions, the type of work you're able to do outside versus inside. And you'll definitely notice, first and foremost, that there's going to be a swing in terms of your total fatigue. You could do 10 hours of training indoors, right? And mentally you're like, oh man, it's just so hard to get motivated. Then you can do 10 hours of training outdoors. And mentally you're like, oh, this is awesome, I'm outside. But your body's like, oh man, we're exhausted. It was hot, it was windy. There was so much stress going on, potholes, sand, and everything else. So you sort of have two different types of stress, of friction, but you still ultimately have the same level of fatigue. So just as you learn how to process fatigue and manage your training indoors, so too will you need to learn how to manage it outdoors. And it's a lesson, it's a process, it's something we go through every year. Every year someone wakes up and they're like, oh my God, I'm not eating or drinking because indoors I don't need to eat and drink. I can just go to my fridge, or I'm not really that hungry or thirsty, it's only an hour. Outdoors, 3 hours into your ride, you're done. You're looking for anything. You're going to eat leaves off of a tree, right? You're trying to squish little caterpillars to get juice out, to keep you going, whatever it is, right? At that point in time, you're done. Not only have you ruined that session, but you probably ruined the next 2 or 3 days worth of sessions because you simply didn't take care of your body. And that switch between the two is what's happening right now. So really take a moment to step back, whether it's, reflecting before your next training session, or as you do a recap. We love to have you guys do recaps on Sundays about last week and then plan forward for the next week. When you do that recap, just kind of assess, hey, what are my top 3 lessons learned this week? What have I learned that I need to focus on? For me, this week, I've learned a lot about patience in the pool. I'm trying to get ahead of myself. I'm working too hard and I'm not seeing the results that I want. And as a result, my swim stroke is deteriorating. We've got to back off that. Number 2, I've really got to work on my shifting. I've got new electronic shifters. I'm not quite used to the paddles, and I've definitely missed the chain a couple times climbing and descending, and it's getting a little tricky, so I definitely have to work on that. And then finally, nutrition. I'm still just drinking 1 bottle of bike workout, which is fine for an hour, but is not fine for a 3-hour bike ride. So I definitely need to get better about that. So I've got 3 things that are kind of front and foremost. So of course my training plan goes on, things progress, evolve. But inside my head, I've kind of got these other markers that I need to have upper level that I can continue to execute against. So next time, instead of thinking about how long should my ride be, or what should my main set be, or which way am I going, I need to really think about my nutrition, because that is the big arbiter. That's the big thing that's going to determine whether this workout, regardless of the watts, time, pace, friends, no friends, is going to be a successful workout in terms of the cohesion of my plan, or if it's going to be an outlier, a problem that I have. Okay? So managing that level of knowledge with your training is really, really hard, and not many athletes are adept at it. In fact, most athletes get adept at that simply because they've made mistakes. Case in point right here, made this mistake tons, and I also have the added benefit of working with you guys as well. So those are the 2 things I want to talk about with training. Now it's time for a sip of the beer here. So people have been asking, I will not be at Ironman Texas this year, 2017. I have raced it in the past. I think it's a great venue, although the bike is sort of TBD down there on the Hardy Toll Road. But I am sending mega love to everybody who's racing. And a caveat that you still need to think about the heat. Even though they've moved that race a month earlier, I've been there a month earlier, I've done training camps there a month earlier, it's just as hot as it is in May. There's no delta between April and May. There's maybe the odds of maybe more rain, but for the most part, the temperature is still the same. It's not like you're going to be in the 60s versus the 70s. It's already the 80s. I think it's predicted to be 80 right now on race day because we're 10 days out. And that heat, that discomfort is something that everyone has to deal with. And so you need to really be thinking about that. How are you going to handle the heat? What's your nutrition plan? What's your pacing plan? What are your heart rate zones? And then what's the bandwidth you have within those zones to deal with the heat? I'll tell you this, changing my nutrition there for Ironman Texas was one of the single best things I ever did. And I really had to work on it. It was a ton of training. You can even start to work on it now, even with just a couple days left. Get in the mindset of what you want to do. Make sure you get enough bottles on your bike. Think through the 8-station strategy, which ones you want to hit, which ones you can't miss. How you want to handle things if you get too hot, if you drop a bottle, all that sort of back and forth around what you want to do. You want to download that. The upside of the Woodlands is it's a great place to watch with your family and friends. The venue downtown is fantastic. They do a good job supporting the race, and hopefully the Hardy Toll Road turns out to be just a great place to go drag race a bike. And you're super excited with your time and your experience there. Now, for those of you who are not racing Texas but kind of gearing up into your year, everyone's kind of thinking about what they want to do. And for me, I've got that Blue Ridge Camp looming on my side. Well, for you, you may not have Blue Ridge Camp looming, but you should definitely be thinking about adding bike volume into your training plan. It's part of year 2 of our 3-year plan for our athletes. But generally speaking, everyone can benefit from more bike volume. The best part about the bike is you've got gears. You can pick where you want to go. You've always got a phone to get back home again if you need to. So you can get on your bike and just go ride. Just bring more food or bring some money, plan a route with some stops, and get out there and put some time in. There's nothing wrong, even early season, with putting in a 3 or 4 hour ride. Just easy. Find friends, make it a challenge, make it a picture ride. I don't care. But set that mental marker higher for yourself. It's not necessarily about physiology at this point. It's about that mental marker. Because when you go from like a 75 or 90 minute indoor ride, and the book says, hey, I've got to ride 4 hours, that's a big delta. That's, it's a massive undertaking for people who are stuck mentally at 90 minutes. So take the pressure off on that first long ride of the year. Just get out. Like I said, explore, ride somewhere. One of my first early rides every year is typically riding from here in Rhode Island up to spectate the Boston Marathon, now that I don't really run it anymore. It's like a 4 hour ride. It's, depending on the wind and the terrain and the conditions, but it's great. I start at like 7 a.m. I'm up there at 11 when the race starts. By the time I get to where we are at midpoint, I don't need to be there till 12:30. I get all cleaned up. I've done a great ride. It's been fun. It's a route I don't normally ride, so I'm not dragging or racing myself. It's just awesome. It's an exploration. It's fun. And so I kind of set that ride for myself. So I encourage you to do the same. We have the day off here in New England, Patriots Day. You gotta have a day off for a marathon, right? One of the few sort of random holidays I actually agree with. But that's my marker. That's my piece that kind of sets in motion the longer riding of the year. It doesn't take away from the deep-seated fear that I have for the Blue Ridge Camp and the pain that I'll be suffering there as we attempt to get 30,000 feet of climbing done in just 4 days here on the East Coast, which I'm super excited about that. We got a great crew. All right, so definitely think about that as you're kind of coming over from that early season. And we also have a lot of new people inside the house. And joining the team here during race season, it's always a little different. In the wintertime, everyone's on the same training plan, so the forums are hot, the vibe is pumping, everyone's excited. But when we move in season, all of a sudden, some people are racing, some people aren't. Everyone's not necessarily on the same training plan, so it's a little different. So I strongly encourage you guys, once you have your training plan loaded, to go find your race forum, especially those of you doing the longer distance races that are on the EN full plan. There's a race forum for each of those races. You can go there and meet the people racing and tell your story and check in about your training. Those generally get more lively in the last 12 weeks to your race. Until that point in time, what we think about doing is spending more time in the general discussion forums and just kind of searching through just a first page or two, likely what you've missed since last time you were there, and just picking up on the topics that are interesting to you. I usually right-click on them and open them up in a new tab. So I'll have 4 or 5 new tabs open so I can read them. Maybe I want to save them or bookmark them. Maybe I want to comment. Maybe I want to just make a note of who's in that thread. You have to notice that like Scott or Jane or Tina is always involved in these threads that you're really interested in. That's a person you should be reaching out to. So if you don't have that race pressure on your plate right now and you've just started trying to get to know the team, you've got a lot to do with your workouts, etc. Well, that's my job. It's the coach's job to make sure you're dialed in with the workouts. You do that with me or Coach Rich. But when you're thinking about making a home for yourself, you're going to need some friends, people who are going to help keep you motivated, keep you on track, and keep you inspired. All of that happens in the forums. So if you haven't already, head over to the forums and kind of dive in. Every month, typically once a month, we'll do a live chat like this where I come in and I'll answer any questions that people have, kind of get you up to speed on whatever the topics of the week are inside the house. There's a lot going on right now. So from a marketing perspective, I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that our 12-week short course plans are now free inside Endurance Nation. Anyone who goes to the Endurance Nation training plan store, so endurancenation.us, you'll see the store button, click that, go to short course. Our 12-week plans, beginner, intermediate, and advanced, are all free. The 20-week ones have a small price associated with them. But those plans are free now for anyone who's doing a sprint or Olympic triathlon, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran trying to get faster, to take advantage of our training plans and dive into that. So we're super excited to release those. We have done a great deal with some new sponsors. We just released some sponsorship with Bike Flights, which is a fantastic upgrade for us. And you've seen a lot of stuff coming down the pike on social media about Vasa and our other partners as well. So you should definitely check those out. As your bikes are coming out of the closet, I recommend you check out VeloFix. Our friends over there have done a great job of creating a service that's both easy to use, but just kind of cool. Like having that truck in your yard, getting to explore, getting to talk with the mechanic. It's kind of a bike geek's dream. you should definitely be checking that out as well. Okay. Other stuff behind the scenes, obviously prepping for the Blue Ridge camp, like I mentioned, thinking about the logistics of our other camps and other races of the year. We've already kicked off some points for the Ironman Tri Club competition. It's going to be a tough year. It's going to be really, really tough to 5-peat. I hope you can do it. If you haven't already gone ahead and registered for Endurance Nation, we have instructions for you on the website. You can ask anybody about them or just go under resources and wiki, and in the wiki you can search for the Tri Club page. That'll tell you a little bit more about it. Okay? I hope this has been helpful for you guys. There's a lot of stuff going on in the team. It's always kind of confusing to kind of dive in and figure out where you are. But no matter where you are, we're here to help you guys out. You can hit us in the macro or the micro threads of the forums. You can always schedule a call with us under the training plan tab. There's a book a coach call button right there. Or you can use the red chat button in the bottom right hand corner of the website. We're here all the time. We can answer your questions. We can keep you up to speed. Anything you need, we're here to help. Okay? So with that said, I'm going to sign off. I hope to see you guys here next month with another coaches chat. This has been Coach Patrick. It is April 13th, Thursday the 13th here. So have a wonderful Easter if I don't see you, and a great April. Those of you I will see at the Blue Ridge camp, rock on, take it easy. Everyone else, have a great couple weeks, and I'll see you soon. Take care.